Hello everyone, this is Shadow Dragon back with another episode of DC Universe Online, and we're going to be looking at the price guide for the Power Chromas. So basically this is the new item that's in the most recent Resurgence Time Capsules, and it combines two concepts from previous rewards. So there's of course the power materials, which we had, I think it was 1 or 2 resurgences ago, and then it's using that combined with the idea of chromas, which is a material that kind of has 3 different effects that fills in the 3 color slots. So these, what you see here are 2 examples of some of the more common ones. These are kind of easier to get. So we have the Green Lantern one on the left, which is the glowing chroma, and the Gadgets one on the right, which is mechanized. So if we look at the green one, you could see that there are 3 colors. There's the white that's on her arms, there's like a dark green with like a green glow, and that's the part that makes it look like the NPC Green Lanterns, where they're wearing like a suit, but it had like a glow to it. And then the lighter parts are similar to the glowing full material, which you see on the cape and shoulders. So Sylvia to the left is wearing like a combination of the chroma plus the full material. And it's pretty much the same setup on the right with mechanized. So if we go in really close, you'll see that there's a light blue with a texture to it, a dark blue, and then the lightest part is the highlight with like the same special effects as the full material. So most of them work that way, and the cool thing about it is, unlike the full material, it doesn't like delete all the slots, and it doesn't delete like the special effects slots that some of the gear pieces have. So first of all, let me start off with how the full material's left off as far as tiers. Because I'm not going to concentrate so much on prices, that way this video won't be so dated. But we're just going to look at tiers of the current chromas versus the materials, because they sort of follow a basic pattern, but there are differences because of the way the chromas were converted over. Like some of them are drastically different from when they were the full material. Basically, they all ended in roughly 3 tiers. Let's see, I'll start with the top because it's easier to go that way. Ice was the winner, Arctic. That was in a tier of its own, going, about 10 times higher than the lowest tier, and 3 times higher than the tier that was above it. So in the second from the highest, we had Fire, Electricity, Rage, Quantum, and Blessed Celestial. Like those were roughly 1/3 of what Ice went for. And those were like clearly the best looking ones. Celestial is always up there, the Blessed Celestial, because it looks really plain and generic, but it looks good. And you could kind of say the same with Quantum. Like Quantum is a good general blue colored material. Rage is a good general red. Of the lantern powers, if you're using them for reasons other than a lantern, red is going to occur the most. It matches the most powers and probably the most concepts. Electricity tends to be like a generic gold color with an effect. And Fire just looks cool. So that's my analysis on why those always do well. And pretty much after that would be everything else in the first tier. So I just wanted to, do a quick overview of that, but I'll link to the full video in the card to the upper right. But in this video, we're going to look at the tiers for the chromas. And just like all the other videos, as well as this channel, everything is USPC PS prices. So what we're going to do is search for, Chroma pack. Now the metal ones are going to be mixed in as well, but we'll just skip over those. So a lot of this is pretty similar to before. Wild, which is nature, and watchful, which is munitions, are at the bottom. So the way I'm going to set the tiers is there's going to be 4 of these. There's anything below 10. There's roughly the 10 million point, 20 million point, 30 million point, and then above that. So it's going to be 4. Wild and watchful are in the first one. And you're also going to see enigmatic crawling in here. And enigmatic is the mental one. Unfortunately, I can't preview these because they are materials, so there's no preview mode for them. I'm actually surprised by enigmatic because that's kind of a general purple, but I can see like less concepts are going to use purple than say like blue or a red. Mystical is in there. The sorcery one usually scores as one of the cheaper ones. I kind of thought this one improved a bit because the sorcery chroma is more of a match than say like the aura or full material. It looks really good, but it's probably low because it's kind of specific to sorcery. That's the only power that uses red and purple at the same time. So these are all repeats. Sinister is in here also, and any of these can mix in price as well. So you could see like Mystical or Sinister drop to the 4 million. I've actually bought a few at the 4 million point. So yeah, Sinister, it tends to be a common one. I would just think because people, I mean, there are going to be less yellow lanterns than green. Of all the lanterns, yellow is probably the least popular, but it's still like an iconic concept. Because now you could sort of mimic like the Sinestro Corps costume with this material. So mechanized is in there. Mechanized is almost like a between. Like it's, I mean, it's under 10 here, but you're going to see above that are at the 10 million price point. But yeah, mechanized was one of the lower tiered ones when it was the full material. So all of that is pretty consistent. Now glowing is in the 10 million point, whereas before it was mixed in at the lower tier, and I think the reason behind this is because there are a lot of green lanterns and people want to mimic that NPC style. So this was just long awaited. Glowing definitely bumped up in tier going from full material to chroma. And I think it's pretty much going to stay here. It's not going to drop down to where Sinister is. So we're still at the 10 million point. You start to see nuclear creep in here. And surprisingly, Atomic was one of the lower ones. So Atomic has always looked similar in special effects to Fire. So if you're unable to afford the Fire one, Nuclear is always an alternative. In this case, it's arguably better. I haven't been able to play with either of these in depth quite yet, but it seems like Nuclear has more contrast than Scorching, which is the Fire one. You'll see the Fire one at a later tier. Terrestrial, which is the Earth one, this one jumped up a tier as well because Earth tended to be one of the lower ones in the past. As the full material, it was actually mixed in there with nature, yellow light. But it jumped up here because they, instead of going with like a rock-based look or a sand-based look, they went for lava. So this actually looks like a fire material more so than an earth. That's why it's up here in the 20 million tier. So we have nuclear it's kind of in between the 10 and 20. If you see any of these lower ones as 20, that's just overpriced. Yep, these are a bunch of overpriced ones. Then we have green metal. You said the metal ones, despite how low they were before, are becoming more scarce. Alright, then we've got Surging, also in the 20s, making its appearance in the 20s. Surging is the water one, and that's kind of let's see, Surging was also in the lower tier before, but it kind of had a major change because they bumped up the contrast in the chromas. There's like a bright version of the water that's great for the effects areas that some of the gear pieces have. Sparking, I kind of thought sparking was in the 30s, so this could be a fluke. But I think you're gonna see more of them in the upper 20s to 30s. Maybe 25 is actually where I should draw the beginning of this third tier, because basically Scorching, Sparking, Surging, and Furious are in this category. Actually, you could throw in Arctic as well. So Arctic actually got bumped down. Like I would say it's not the tops this time. It's definitely comparable to Sparking and Scorching. I'm actually surprised Furious is this high, and I'm just taking a guess that this is because there are a lot of red concepts and it's a good general red chroma. Because if you just look at the lantern powers alone, I would think more people play green than red, just because Green Lantern it's the one that they market a lot in DCUO. Yep, so more of the same in the 30s. Then you're gonna see like a big jump to the winner, which is the Glorious. So far, I think this is the lowest I've seen Glorious. It's typically like 70s to 80s. I don't think it's dropped to the 60s quite yet. But it's a gigantic jump from the 30 million point. Like, personally, I'm not willing to pay this much for a material. I don't even pay this much for the ones that give feats, for the items that give feats. So this is way out of my price range. The only way I'm getting Glorious is if I roll it. But yeah, there you go. I'll print these on the screen as well. So we have like the lower tier that's under 10, 10, 20, roughly 30, and then all of a sudden 70. I think we're in the middle of this promotion at the currently, but as we saw with previous chromas, they don't depreciate as much as like auras did, or even the full materials. So I think if you rolled the one you wanted and it's upper tier, I would be cautious about getting greedy about it, because you might actually lose that opportunity. I sort of tested this with the metal, the metal chromas, and I didn't do a price guide for it, or I didn't do multiple price guides for it because the prices didn't budge into anything significant. They pretty much held their value throughout the run. And I think these are going to do the same. I mean, you might see like dips. I tend to look for dips during the weekend because people have more time during the weekend, and it's typically after people get their paychecks. So there's going to be more box opens, typically on the weekends, and then after those expire, they just become scarce during the weekday. So you may see a dip in price on weekends and stuff. But yeah, I think unless anything significant happens, this might be my only price guide for the Power Chromas. But it should give you a feel on like where things fall and how you should work them. So yeah, that's it from here. Good luck getting the ones you want, and thanks for watching.